the level of danger that is going to come from this, more than any other reason, is because of how Israel conducts business, how they are responsible. And listen, on Saturday night, I'm going to be addressing the fact that you got all these MAGA shitbags out there going after Candace Owens because she dared to say that Netanyahu was behind 9/11. Now, whether or not he was actually the person behind it or not, to suggest that Israel did not have something to do with 9/11 when you consider all of the smoking gun evidence surrounding Howard Lutnick and Larry Silverstein, please, when everybody is now, and this is the thing, Jen, we talk about this, so many people tend to tell on themselves. So the fact that Candace says what she says, and then every paid grifter for either MAGA or Israel now in unison is attacking Candace, you can't possibly make yourself look more guilty. And the person who we both agree is probably the most protected that can speak to the dangers of this is Tucker Carlson.
And of course, you would hide your own crimes. So, but there's a way to end that. So, Kennedy assassination, 9/11. But let's start with the purported assassination attempts on Donald Trump. Now, why are those significant? Because yesterday, the president of the United States said, I did this. And by this, I mean, killed the head of state of Iran, the Ayatollah Khamenei. He tried to kill me twice, but I got him first. It's almost.
Who is the person that said to the Donald that the Iranians are trying to kill him? Who was the person who said it, Jen? Who came to him and said, oh, the Iranians are trying to kill you?
Milikowski.
And of course, there's no way that that man would ever lie to me. He only tells me the truth. At least that's what Miriam Adelson says all the time. I totally have to trust Milikowski because he totally knows.
A verbatim quote from the president who thinks that. He's been told that. Get it. What do we know about that? Where did that intelligence come from?
It's not intelligent.
Prove that the government of Iran, run by the Ayatollah, this religious leader, tried to assassinate the president of the United States twice. Do we know where that came from? Oh, it came from Israel.
A religious leader, mind you, who had a fatwa against having nuclear weapons. A religious leader that was in favor of diplomacy. So the irony with this.
I don't even know if it's so much irony. I just think we are living through what people are calling the great noticing period. And this is why you and I are very confident and aligned on this idea that Israel is not long for this world for two reasons. Number one, they really have truly alienated them. Well, actually, you know what? I'll give you three reasons why. The first one is that they have alienated themselves basically from the rest of the world. The fact that the UK is not fully backing them militarily right off the bat says a lot. It also says how pathetic they are because they really didn't know what they were getting themselves into with Iran. The second reason that they're not long for this world is because of the amount of money that they are spending every day on what they're doing now. And
you mean the amount of money we're spending every day?
Oh, well, of course. So we'll get to that. But it isn't just Iran. They literally are trying to start World War III because, as we showed the other night, Naftali Bennett, the former psychopathic prime minister of Israel, when Netanyahu decided to take a break for a couple of years, he's come out and said, oh, no, excuse me, the biggest threat to the Israel is not Iran, it's Turkey. And then,
they need to have, okay. At the end of the day, that's their next step, because that's where the fight about Syria is going to come into play. You know, you're going to see the Zio state having a tug of war with Turkey about Syria. And that's the reason that we put what's his face in Syria, was to allow Israel further expansion, except for Turkey was not really in on that agreement. So it's not going to go well. And it'll be really interesting because Turkey's army will kill our army. Like in a way that they have like the second largest land army in NATO. Like I don't see how this goes well.
And the third and final reason, and the biggest reason of all, is that the United States, as a consensus, is breaking away from Israel. And
Right.
as a result, they're only going to be able to hold on to this for so long. For a little while, they will, because they have the money and they have the infrastructure. But that infrastructure is getting chipped away at every day. And when you do what you did to a Marine, and it wasn't just, again, we're going to really get into it when Matt gets here.
Exactly. The Turks are serious. Let me tell you, they have always been a country that geographically and sort of socially plays both sides, right? And they can do that because they literally are the bridge between Europe and Asia. And so they really do sort of have a foot in each world. But at the end of the day, they're not going to tolerate us going in there and taking over Syria and doing that. They're not.
See, this is the type of stuff that us Americans, where we just don't understand our place.
That may be Ernie and Bert and Angry Elmo. That may be, but that's not our problem. That's not our corn muffin. Okay. We have other things to be concerned about than the elected or even non-elected leaders of other nations.
And
right?
think about how many problems in the world will automatically, and again, I know it sounds hyperbolic to say this, but trust me when I tell you, how many of the world's problems are going to disappear overnight the second the state of Israel no longer exists?
Yeah.
That's where that intel came from. Well, let's see it. Why not? At this point, he's dead. Why can't we see that? Oh, sources and methods? Tough. We went to war over this. Americans are dead because of this. You can't hide behind that anymore. Show us. And maybe we'll find that there's really good intel. And it just absolutely shows that the government of Iran, run by the Ayatollah, tried to assassinate the president of the United States. That might have been a good reason for a war right there. But maybe it doesn't show that, because this country has certainly been manipulated a lot by Israeli intelligence and other foreign countries' intelligence, but certainly by Israeli intelligence. That's why we thought there were weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. Saddam Hussein was paying the families of suicide bombers in Israel, which is bad. Not endorsing that. Israel wanted him out. Get it. Why did we do that? Because Israeli intelligence told us that he was working on chem bioweapons and a nuke.
And that, of course, was not true.
No.
And as a result, how many Iraqis were killed? 1.5 million. Remember when I stood up there and had the mission accomplished over my head back in 2003?
Yeah, I mean, and Mehdi was saying, like Turkey, they have traditionally supported Israel and the oppression of Palestinians, absolutely, because they're NATO and they're technically our friend. Again, they're sort of both sides of it. But now Ziohel is gone into Syria. And now we're not abiding by our nice little agreements with Turkey anymore. So I don't think that it's going to be as simpatico as it's been.
Honestly, I mean, when you think about all of them, Bennett, Milikowski, Smoltrich, Gavir, and on we go, you would think that so many of these guys truly, I mean, everything that they used to say about jihadis and the death wishes that they had, these guys really do have a death wish.
Oh, yeah. They must. Well, or is it just such an intense mass delusion?
Well, there's both. There is a mass delusion. But here's the thing. I think some of them are smart enough to understand that this is Nazi Germany all over again. That if they get captured, they're going to be hung in the public square. Like, there will be tribunals and they will be dealt with.
That's why they're all planning their escape route to Argentina.
And then the difference is that this time, we're living in a global world now where people are aware of these things. They'll never be able to get to Argentina without being noticed or without being dealt with. This is not 1945, 1946 anymore. It's a different world now, despite what they may think.
Yeah.
Totally false. We got that from Israeli intelligence. So at that point, the track record suggests, hey, and no offense to Ted Cruz or all the other dumbos are always saying, no, we get all this actual intelligence. It's so important. We need them so desperately. Really, what's the value of the quality of that intelligence? And what percentage is true? What percentage is sincerely mistaken? And what percentage is designed to manipulate us into military action on their behalf? It'd be interesting to know. And until we do know, the rest of us are going to just speculate. And some of us will put brakes on our own imaginations and try not to be too dark about it.
I won't. I'm already way on the dark side. I'm way on the dark side. And at this point, it's just, I feel like nobody buys it, but even though we don't buy it, it doesn't seem to matter anyway. That's why it doesn't even matter about the Epstein files anymore. You can release all the files. We actually know that our president put his fingers in little girls' vaginas to measure them. And we're all just going about life like that's just the way it is. And discussing things that are not that, which is, so again, I don't really, none of it matters. I think they come out with all of it.
No, but it is still amazing watching people deny reality. I think that, I also think that there are some people who have probably served in the armed forces who cannot accept or would never be able to properly wrap their heads around the idea that what they were fighting for was nothing, that it was that was over nothing, that there was no true cause behind what they did.
I think that's the big distinguishing factor between people like Matthew Ho, people like Greg Stoker, like Anthony Aguilar. You know, you have that realization, and it's like, okay, well, what are you going to do with it? And a lot of people, I think, in that position are too scared to do anything about it. And I'm not judging that. I just think I'm observing it. But yeah, that's what we're dealing with.